Hello, welcome. My name is Leanne. I'm a registered and licensed dietitian, and I have a degree in culinary arts. And I'm so excited to partner with CDR Naturals to provide to you a cooking demonstration today. Our goal in this partnership is just to provide value. We hope that you walk away learning something new, and we also want to empower you to cook more in the kitchen. When you cook more in the kitchen at home, there's many health benefits to that. Number one, you can control your portion sizes, and that helps with weight management. Number two, it's a lot cheaper to cook at home. I think there was an article in Forbes that stated that people are on average spending 5 times more when they dine out or order restaurant delivery than when they're cooking at home. Number three, you know every ingredient that's going in your food when you're cooking at home. This is especially important if you or family members have food allergies. Lastly, the CDC states that whenever you're cooking healthy food at home, you're able to prevent and manage chronic diseases like type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Today we're featuring a roasted cauliflower recipe. Now, cauliflower has a lot of health benefits. Cauliflower is very nutrient dense. It's loaded with vitamin C, vitamin K, and it has anti-inflammatory properties. Cauliflower is also a cruciferous vegetable, which is not just a fun word to say. Cruciferous vegetables have been shown to reduce the risk of heart disease and cancer, which are the top 2 leading causes of death in the United States. Cauliflower is also very fiber rich, and fiber is important because it promotes bowel regularity, it promotes a feeling of fullness, fiber fights high cholesterol levels, and fiber promotes good gut bacteria. And that's important because an unhealthy balance of gut bacteria is linked to different diseases like asthma, eczema, type 2 diabetes, irritable bowel, and even obesity. Cauliflower is very versatile. There's many different ways that it can be prepared and consumed. You can put it in a stir fry, you can have steamed cauliflower, you can put it on the grill, you can put it in soups, you can puree it and make a cream of cauliflower soup, you can roast it like we're going to do today, you can even just put it raw with dips or hummus, or put it in a salad for extra crunch and extra fiber. What I do want to tell you is that the stem and the leaves are edible, so there's less food waste. If you didn't want to use the stems or leaves, you could definitely put it in your compost, but the stems can actually be put into soups or stocks. You can also cut the stem or grate it up and put it in a salad or a slaw. So before we begin our recipe, I'd like to point out a few safety features in the kitchen. Number one, it's important that your knife is sharp. I remember in culinary school, my chef instructors would say to me, a sharp knife is a safe knife. And that is very true, because if you have a blade on your knife that is dull, you're using more force and you may slip and you're more likely to cut yourself if your knife isn't sharp. Number two, you want to make sure you're using the right tool for the job. So today we're using a chef's knife. It's also known as a French knife. And this is the right tool for this job because we have a large head of cauliflower, we have a long blade, it's going to easily cut through the cauliflower. You wouldn't want to use, say, a paring knife because it's not the right tool for the job and it poses more of a safety risk. Lastly, I want to show you the proper way to hold your knife when you're using it in the kitchen. So correct form for holding your knife is important so you don't cut yourself, and also so you're not putting extra strain on your wrist. You want to wrap your fingers and thumb around the knife handle. Some people like to go up a little bit further and put their index finger and their thumb on the blade, and that's perfectly fine. What you don't want to do is have your index finger on top of the blade or any of your other fingers on top of the blade. It's unsturdy, it's not safe, you're more likely to cut yourself, and when you do that, putting your finger on top of the blade, you're putting extra strain on your wrist, and if you do that over time, that can actually lead to carpal tunnel. Now, since we have gone over safety, let's get into the recipe. Like I said, we're going to be featuring a roasted cauliflower. This recipe is a Parmesan roasted cauliflower. I love roasting because it's not a cooking method where you have to stand in front of the stove and constantly watch what's on top of the stove. You can prepare your meal or whatever you're going to be roasting, put it in the oven, and then set the timer and come back to it. So if you have a little baby like I do, it's very helpful. So today we're using half a head of cauliflower. Depending on how many people you're going to be feeding, you could do a whole head, but today we're doing half a head of cauliflower. I have half of a sliced yellow onion. I'm also using 4 cloves of garlic, and these are just roughly chopped garlic. I'm using dried thyme today. This is a tablespoon. You can also use fresh thyme. Probably about 4 sprigs would be enough. I have avocado oil today that I'm using. This is about 3 tablespoons. You could also use olive oil. I'm just trying to use a plant-based oil because that's more heart healthy. And then I have some sea salt, and I have some black pepper, and then this is 2 ounces of Parmesan cheese. And if you follow a vegan diet or if you don't eat Parmesan cheese, a great substitute would be nutritional yeast. It has a cheesy, nutty flavor, and it works just the same. It tastes great. So one thing I want to point out is when you have your sharp chef's knife and you're going to cut through the middle of your cauliflower, and then you're going to have the core in the middle, so it's easy for you to cut all of the florets out. And when you cut the florets out, try to keep your florets around the same size so you're even cooking and when you put your cauliflower in the oven. All right, so making our recipe, I'm going to add every ingredient to the cauliflower except for the Parmesan cheese. That's going to come a little bit later. So I have my cauliflower in the bowl. I'm going to add my yellow onion. I'm going to add my garlic. Love garlic. Come from an Italian family. Thyme. This is the avocado oil. Sprinkle of black pepper. Sprinkle of salt. And then I'm just going to mix everything together. And I'm going to put this on a lined baking sheet. You do want to make sure that your oven is preheated to 425 degrees before you start this. Once that's mixed up, I'm going to put it on my baking sheet. I can already smell the garlic. Just kind of spread that out. And then we're going to put this in the oven at 425 degrees for 35 to 40 minutes. So that is in an electric oven. If you have a convection oven or a gas oven, your timing may be a little bit different. Also, depending on how much time you have for dinner, if you want to cook it longer, it's going to be more tender. If you don't cook it as long, it's going to have more of that bite, that crunch to it. So just keep in mind that depending on what type of oven you're cooking this in, you may have a little bit different in time. But on average, I'm going to start in the oven at 35 minutes. All right, so our cauliflower has been in the oven for about 35 minutes. I've just pulled it out, and I'm going to add the Parmesan cheese now. Just going to sprinkle that over all of my cauliflower. And I'm going to put this back in the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. Let that Parmesan melt on there. All right, so we've just pulled our cauliflower out of the oven after that additional 10 minutes after we sprinkled the Parmesan on. This smells great. It's crispy on the outside, it's tender on the inside. My family loves this recipe, and I know that your family is going to love it too. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are very excited to provide this cooking demonstration to you, and we can't wait to share the next one with you in the future.